Have you ever heard drums beating, but no one was playing them? Have you ever seen your king bow to the air, as if someone stronger stood in front of him? My name is Mfon, and this story is not something I read in a book. It's something I saw with my own eyes. Until today, I'm not the same. In a small African village called Okuta, life used to be sweet. People farmed, danced, and respected the king. But one thing was always clear. The real rulers were not the ones you could see. You see, in Okuta, they didn't just pray to the forefathers. They believed the forefathers were still alive, ruling from the shadows. Every king that ruled was chosen by the spirits. Every decision made in the palace had to be approved by the circle of ancients. And when the village heard the midnight drums, they knew the dead had spoken. My grandfather, Papa Ikanam, was the royal drummer. He was the only one allowed to play the spirit drum, the one used to call the ancestors. But one night, he came back from the palace with sweat on his forehead and fear in his eyes. I had never seen him like that. "Mfon," he whispered, "the forefathers are not sleeping anymore. They are moving. And when they move, blood follows." He died that same week, and the drum was buried with him. A new king, Abang Itoro, was chosen. Young, strong, and brave. But he made a mistake. He said, "This is the time of the living, not the dead. We must rule with our own minds." The next day, all the palm trees in the kingdom turned black. The river stopped flowing. Women giving birth cried of strange shadows touching their babies. And every night the drums played themselves. No one touched them. At midnight on the 7th moon, the whole village woke up to a terrifying sound. The palace gates opened by themselves. Every candle went off, and a cold wind filled the air. From the forest came 7 tall shadows, wearing the same crowns that had been buried with kings long ago. No feet, no faces, only glowing eyes and deep voices that sounded like thunder. They walked straight into the palace. Abang Itoro tried to run, but the throne shook, and suddenly, he was speaking in a voice that was not his own. He stood up, turned around, and knelt. He knelt to the air. The oldest of the shadows spoke. "We are the ones who died with power, and power does not die." I was only 16, but that night, I dreamed that I was inside the palace. And one of the spirits walked up to me. "Mfon," it said, "your blood remembers us. You are the key." When I woke up, my bed was full of red feathers, the kind only used for coronations. And my feet were dirty with palace dust. I had not left the house. Some villagers said the forefathers came to protect us. Others said they were punishing us for forgetting them. Then people started disappearing. The first was a hunter who said, "There is no power in the dead." His body was found behind the palace, eyes wide open, mouth full of sand. Then the market woman who laughed at the shrine. Then a teacher. Then a pastor. I knew I had to find out the truth. So I snuck into the sacred room behind the palace, the one no one had entered in over 50 years. The door opened for me, like it was waiting. Inside, I saw something that made my heart stop. A mirror. And in it, I saw myself. But I was wearing the crown. My eyes were glowing. And behind me stood all the shadows. Smiling. I wanted to scream, but my mouth wouldn't move. The reflection in the mirror wasn't just me. It was me, possessed, wearing the crown. Behind me stood the 7 shadows, still smiling. But when I blinked, I noticed one of them was no longer just a shadow. He had my face. In the corner of the sacred room, something called me, like a whisper inside my head. I turned and saw an old scroll, half buried under dust and ash. My hands moved on their own as I picked it up. It was written in the old language, the one only royal blood could read. And somehow, I could read it. "The child who sees the spirits in glass shall awaken the forgotten king." That's when I knew I wasn't just anybody. I was born with something the ancestors had marked long before I was born. The scroll mentioned a name, Ikanam, my grandfather. I ran home and dug through his old box under the bed. Wrapped in palm leaves was a tiny spirit mask and a note. "If you're reading this, then the ancients have chosen you too. I tried to run from it, don't make the same mistake." Suddenly it made sense. Why Papa Ikanum died with fear in his eyes. Why the drum was buried. Why I was dreaming of the dead. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the palace. I heard the drums. And in my ears, a voice kept repeating, "Sit on the throne, son. It belongs to you." Then my body rose on its own. My feet walked toward the palace gate. It was locked. But as I approached, it flung open. No one touched it. The guards bowed, without looking at me. And when I entered the main hall, the throne turned slowly to face me. I found King Itoro on the floor, trembling like a child. He looked at me, then at the crown on the throne, then back at me. "You are the one they told me about," he whispered. "I'm sorry, take it. Please take it. Just don't let them take my soul." Before I could reply, the shadows entered. The drums played. The fire lamps went out. And Abang Itoro screamed, a scream that didn't sound human. Then silence. When the light returned, he was gone. Only his sandals remained. The shadows surrounded me again. One by one, they placed red feathers on my shoulders. One placed the crown on my head. Another whispered, "Now the kingdom breathes again." Then everything turned white. Bright light everywhere. And I woke up in my bed, with the crown beside me. I tried to tell my mother. She cried and begged me not to return to the palace. "Your grandfather tried to escape it and he died. Please, you're only a boy." But deep inside, I knew I wasn't only a boy anymore. Everywhere I walked, people bowed without knowing why. Babies stared at me and cried. Birds flew in circles above me. And when I stood still, I could hear the earth breathing. But not everything was good. Since Abang Itoro vanished, the sun had stopped rising properly. The sky stayed orange for too long. Rain fell, then disappeared midair. Children were born with strange marks on their backs, marks that looked like the face of the oldest spirit. And one night, a girl appeared at the palace gate. Her name was Esset, and she said, "I came from the mountain where the dead sleep. They sent me to warn you. The throne you now sit on is cursed." Esset stood in the palace doorway, barefoot, drenched in rain that no one else could feel. She wasn't just a girl. She carried the smell of the mountains, the same place they buried the forbidden ones, kings who disobeyed the ancients. Her eyes locked with mine. "Mfon," she said, "you were chosen, but not for peace." I stepped back. "The throne is cursed," she whispered. "It feeds on power, but it's never full. You're not ruling Okuta. The throne is ruling you." That same night, the villagers woke to screaming. Not from humans, from the river. The great river of Okuta, the one that fed our farms and healed our wounds, turned red. Dead fish floated to the shore. The water tasted like iron. And from the center of the river, a voice echoed, "Return what was stolen, or the living shall walk among the forgotten." No one knew what that meant, but I did. I had taken the throne. Esset slept in the palace that night. I watched her from across the room, unable to rest. And then I dreamed again. But this dream was different. I was standing in the graveyard of the kings, but every grave was open. The ground cracked beneath me, and a deep, growling voice said, "Mfon, you wear the crown, but the crown wears many before you." Then I saw my own face, old, broken, and buried alive. I woke up screaming. At sunrise, the elders of Okuta, men who hadn't spoken in years, came to the palace in silence. One of them, Elder Ufot, looked into my eyes and said, "You're not cursed. You are the curse." Then he opened his palm, revealing a burnt feather, the same red feather from the ancients. "You've been touched. You must enter the pit of memory. If you survive, the truth will be yours." Deep behind the shrine of ancestors lies the pit of memory, a hole covered with cowrie shells and sealed with bones. Only one person had ever entered it before, Abang Adiaha, the king who vanished during the famine. They said the pit swallows you, takes you through every memory the land has held, and shows you the pain no one speaks of. I climbed in. Darkness. Then wind. Then voices. Thousands of voices. I saw it. In the pit, I saw the truth of Okuta. The kingdom was never ruled by kings. It was ruled by a pact. Long ago, when war came to the village, the first king made a deal with the ancients. Save us from death, and we will give you our thrones even after death. They agreed, and the war stopped. But from that day, every king was only a mouthpiece. The real rulers were spirits. And every crown was cursed, passed down with blood, silence, and fear. I woke up in the palace shrine. My nose was bleeding. Esset was sitting by the door, waiting. "You've seen it, haven't you?" she asked. I nodded. She pulled out a small pouch. Inside was a single white feather. "This is the key," she said. "Only one born of blood and touched by death can use it." But before I could speak, the drums started again. But this time, they were beating my name. Mfon, Mfon, Mfon. The sky turned black, not like night, but like smoke had covered the heavens. Every child in the village cried at the same time. The goats ran wild. And from the hills, the 7 ancients returned. Only this time, they were not shadows. They were bodies. Old rotting kings, walking again. One carried the staff of thunder. Another held the book of oaths. They marched straight to the palace. The earth trembled. Esset gripped my arm. "You have one choice left," she whispered. "Run or rule." The 7 ancients stood at the palace gate, alive but not living. Their skin hung like old cloth. Their mouths didn't move when they spoke, but their voices echoed like drums in the sky. "Mfon, you have worn the crown. Now wear the consequence." I looked at Esset, still holding the white feather. I looked at the villagers gathering below the hill, afraid, whispering, praying. I had 2 choices: run and let it burn, or stay and become what I feared. I chose the second. The white feather burned in my hand. And suddenly, the ground opened beneath the palace throne. A spiral of wind pulled me down into the earth, deep, deep into the roots of the kingdom itself. I stood in front of a massive throne carved from skulls, bones, and twisted branches. Above it, a voice rumbled, "Power cannot be borrowed. It must be taken, and it must be fed." Then I saw them, the souls of all the kings before me, trapped in eternal suffering. Eyes wide, mouths open, screaming but never dying. Abang Itoro was there. So was Papa Ikanam. And as I stepped forward, a shadow whispered, "You are not ruling Okuta. Okuta is ruling you." Back in the village, thunder cracked the sky. Esset stood before the shrine, calling on the mountain spirits. "Let the chain be broken. Let the boy be free." But the ancients laughed. "Too late," they said. "He chose the throne. Now the throne chooses him." The sky opened. Lightning struck the palace. And the villagers ran. Esset raised the white feather high into the air and burst into flames. Without a sound, only ashes remained. I woke up, but I was no longer Mfon. I was wearing the ancient crown. My eyes were glowing red. My heart beat no more. I walked through the palace. The walls bowed to me. The animals stayed silent. The people, those who survived, dropped to their knees in fear. But I didn't smile. I didn't feel anything, because I was no longer alive. I had become the 8th ancient, a new shadow, and like the others, I could no longer die. Since that day, the crops stopped growing. Babies were born without laughter. Every new king is now chosen by a dream, a nightmare where I am waiting. And the drum? It never stopped beating. Every night, the sound echoes through the village. But no one plays it. No one dares. Because they know the ancients still rule. And the boy who was chosen was the last soul Okuta ever had. My name was Mfon. I was a boy. I had dreams. But I wore the crown. And now, I am the reason the sun never shines on Okuta again.